Good morning, folks, and welcome back to another EDGEy conversation. It's Zoe here. I'm so excited to welcome an Alberta counterpart to our conversation this morning. We've got Lana Lane joining us from Grace United Church, where she is the family and youth worker. And she's here today to tell us a little bit about Soup for the Soul and the story that's happening in their community. So Lana, I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself and tell us your story. What's your community of faith been up to?
Thank you, Zoe. Really grateful to be here this morning. My name is Lana Lane, and I'm the family youth worker here at Grace United Church in Lloydminister, so Canada's only border city. So we actually are on the Alberta side, but right across the street out of my window is the Saskatchewan side. So if I step in the middle of the road outside of my office, I'm actually now in Saskatchewan. So I'm really excited here today to talk a little bit about the Soup for the Soul program that we have up and running at Grace United Church, and we have been now for a couple of years. It was a program that we just felt with our outreach folks in our community that would be something that we could do that would be helpful. And when we think of soup and what that does, offering comfort and just sort of some joy to people, it was that hearty, kind of warm feeling, fuzzy idea, I guess, that we felt that would be something that would be valuable to the folks that we serve here in Lloydminster. So how we got started, obviously through the grant, which was amazing. And we just felt that we would start with serving soup. And so we reached out to our congregation and to the community. And we ended up getting a lot of volunteers that were willing to come into our kitchen and prepare soup. And so we picked what we felt were really good recipes that we had been serving in a lot of our functions already. And so we've landed ourselves on about 8 different types of soup that, depending on the ingredients that we get in a month, we will provide. So we've got 4 teams right now that consistently come every month. And I guess what has been really fun to watch is it's not only that we're serving those that are in need and those that are living, on low income, or maybe they're facing some barriers in their community with some disadvantages, those that are homeless. And even we've noticed now more recently, our elderly population that are living on that low income, we are now feeding them as well. So what happened as a result of it, I think, is not only the win for the people that are coming that we serve on our Thursdays, but it's to the people that are in the kitchen. So we've got a husband and wife team that uses, once a week, their time at the church to just get together and create some yummy soup. We've got 2 groups of friends. So we've got one group that has about 6 or 7 of them that they just love to gather every second week and just enjoy each other's company and create in the kitchen. And then we have a ministry group, which is another 3 ladies that, again, every 2 weeks just enjoy the togetherness of them, in the kitchen and preparing. So and the one that I think that has really been quite fun to watch is we've got a group that comes in once a month, and there are about 8 or 10 of them, and they are couples. So it's the man-wife team times 4 or 5. And they actually come in, and the husbands actually land themselves pretty close to the dishwasher and all the prepping of the vegetables, and the women are, bustling about in the kitchen, just preparing the meal. But it's been fun to watch, because here again now is a group of people that enjoy each other's company and have been able to gather in the kitchen and serve others. And so when we talk about, the people that we serve, we have an outreach program that runs every Thursday. And so the soup that gets prepared in the kitchen gets frozen, and every Thursday those folks that are needing that service are able to come to the church, and that becomes part of our food hamper program. And they love the soup. Probably the favorite, beef and barley, and a comfort chili, right? So those are some of the 2 favorites. But I guess part of the program too was, what's the messaging that we could be sending to those folks that are needing that support, or that pick me up, or that just love hug, I guess, coming from Grace United. And so our soup is put in 1-liter plastic containers where we put a label on it with a scripture reading from the Bible. So there is a picture on there as well as the scripture. So, I guess Peter's on there for one of them. So give all your worries and cares to God. Right. And This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it, from Psalm. So we just feel that if we can have the conversation with those folks that are landing on our doorstep and provide that hearty, healthy, just hot kind of comfort meal, and then give them a little bit of scripture and hope that things are going to be okay, and that we are here to support and help you, and that Grace can be that lending hand for when times get tough. So we're serving so many people and so many walks of life and different stories that land on our doorstep. And I guess I just love the feel of bringing our congregation together, bringing community members together to serve others. And that was really the gift, I guess, that Soup for the Soul has been able to provide us here in Lloydminster. And really, we wouldn't have been able to do that without the support of the grant. So we were very thankful to receive that. But we also probably wouldn't be able to continue because we're now going into year 3, I believe. We have a food rescue service here in Lloydminster called the Olive Tree. And so this is where a lot of restaurants and grocery peoples are able to send food to this olive tree, and then they disperse it to those local organizations that would then use it for food making in their facilities. So we've been very fortunate with the business support as well as all of those food resources that we get from the olive tree. And it, well, I think their last meeting, they talked about it was over $1 million served worth in food in the year 2020. So they are definitely supplying lots of businesses and organizations and church groups and those that are providing food services for our outreach folks in our community. So we've been very grateful to them. So we've been able to sustain it. And that, I think, is, you know, the grant got us started, but I think people now have seen the value in the program. They absolutely love what we're doing. So we get those donations from the community. We get the donations from Olive Tree. And then our congregation members as well as community members are stepping up to actually prepare the soup for our folks that are in need. So, and those folks that get it on Thursday are very gracious for that. But we've also been able to provide the Soup for the Soul for those in our congregation that are maybe going through a tough time themselves. They've lost a loved one, or life, you know, has landed hard right now. And so we've been able to deliver these 1-liter containers of soup to families or to single moms that are in need, or you know, just somebody in our congregation that is just going through a really rough time. So it's kind of been, I think, really a win-win on just so many fronts, and I can see it moving forward. We're actually talking about maybe we're now getting into, you know, comfy casseroles or something, right? So it's soup, but also now we can maybe extend that into those comfy casseroles, and because it has been just such a well-received resource. So very grateful here in Lloydminster.
Wow, I'm just so inspired too, hearing about how it's become so much more than just like the folks that you're serving. It's really become a community effort. You've got some great partnerships happening with other organizations and businesses. What a phenomenal way to bring everyone together for a shared project.
Yeah, well, and I think, yeah, it's been fun too to watch folks that maybe had left the church for a while. You know, life sometimes lands you in those positions where you're raising your family, or it gets too chaotic, or that weekly visit to church maybe doesn't happen. But what we've noticed is that the folks coming back to actually prepare the soup have been congregation members in the past, and now have landed themselves back in the kitchen to serve others. And that, you know, is what it's all about, right? So it's been just really fun to watch just so many different levels what this program has been able to provide to everyone, right? And if you can put a smile on the faces of those that are in the receiving end, but also just watch the joy of those that are in the kitchen creating, I just think, you know, that's what this program was designed to do, and it's definitely done that and more. So we've been very, very proud of it and very happy about it for sure.
Absolutely. I'm like, you should be so proud of the work that's happened already. It sounds really phenomenal. I know I've heard lots of things that maybe were unexpected or that you weren't really prepared for. What's been the one that stands out the most to you as being the most unexpected or surprising part of this journey?
I guess for me, when I look at, there's one particular fellow that came and he landed himself in our foyer. And it was an evening that we were preparing actually some meals for another program that we run. But he's accessed the Soup for the Soul many times, again, because of the situation that he's landed himself in.
Mhm.
But he stood in the foyer and he was surprised, for one, that our door was open at 9 o'clock at night. Number two, he was really sad that he had missed the cooking class that was going on in the kitchen. And then when I was able to provide him with a bag of some of the soup,
Mhm.
he just stood and he broke down actually in the foyer. And he just said to me that he loved this place. Like, he absolutely loved this place. And what's happened as a result of that, he knew that he couldn't ever pay for the class that we were doing in, our Meals and More, which is another program. He knew he had been accessing all the soup, but his way to give back to us was to come down in the winter and shovel whenever he could when the snow was piled so high in front of the doorway. That's how he gave back, right? So when I think of, these people are so appreciative of what we're able to do. And this was a fellow that realized that, he couldn't do anything other than maybe just provide some time and some support and some help. I can grab a shovel and I can come shovel. And this was all throughout the winter. This wasn't just a one-time go. This was whenever there was snow, all of a sudden you'd see him land himself on our doorstep and he'd be shoveling, right? And he just was, I guess, so appreciative of us supporting him, not able to go out and buy the groceries that he may be needing to prepare something that, or not even having the skill set maybe to prepare the meal, but that we had done that for him, but he could give back in a way that was payment, right? And so for me, those are the wins, and those are the God-felt moments. Like, those are the times when you just go, okay, we did what we were supposed to do, serving others, and now he is serving us, right? So beautiful moments for sure.
Yeah, I'm like, this is so lovely. We often talk about on the EDGE team, what do we feel we're being called to next? What is the next right thing to do or the next good thing to do?
Well, and I guess, isn't it awesome that we've got, this is how you reach people, right? So through food, we've been able to reach somebody that can give back. And so if those types of things continue to be, then Grace here in Lloydminster becomes home for these folks, right? So maybe they're not attending church service every week, but they will, right? And they will come when they feel the calling to be there is. And I think that's what we are. It's an open space and it's an open door for when you're ready to make that step into that journey, right? And if we can make this a place that you're comfortable in and that you're loving, then we know we've done again our job, right? So that's what we feel here, I guess, as a group of leaders that we're all about. And if it's through food and it's through programs like Soup for the Soul that are going to help us make those connections and help us grow and just, I guess, be the space for people when they need it, then again, we've done our job.
Yeah, absolutely. And like having the door open at 9 p.m., right? That's just part of it. It's how it works out.
Well, and for those that don't know Lloydminster, we are a downtown church. So we are right in the downtown core of Lloydminster, right? So you are servicing many people throughout all hours of the day. And it's a great feel when you can be open to the needs of those that are needing something at whatever time it is, right? So when you've got a church that is running programs throughout the day, but into the evening, and it can be an open space that somebody can just come plunk themselves down in the sanctuary and just have that peaceful moment that is needed where they are right now, then, I mean, that's the warm, fuzzy stuff, I guess, in our work, right? And that's what we believe here is what we are called to do.
Wow, really cool. It's a huge question and sometimes folks don't have an answer, but what's next? When you look ahead for Grace United or for the program, where to next?
Well, I do think that we are innovative. And I do believe that, well, that's one of our core values, actually. We've gone through a whole bunch of structuring when we look at what's happening with United Churches across our nation and just the downturn, I guess, in people attending. Again, I think because of where we are and the innovativeness of the things that we're thinking about and trying to do, I think we'll continue to be sustaining ourselves in many ways, right? But we're definitely doing the outreach into the community in many, many different ways. And food seems to be it, right? You know, when I think of, we've now put in this Super Sunday. And so we knew that young families weren't attending regularly. So what could we do to encourage families to come, but also again, be a space that's working for them in the hecticness of their schedule. So we have now started this Super Sunday program, which is a once a month Sunday school, right? So you don't have to come every week, but on those Super Sundays is the day where we really load up with our Sunday school leaders, but we also provide that very special family orientated service and then food afterwards, right? Where we can gather and have the social network of like-minded people. So if you can have all of those young families coming at one time, you can make those connections. It becomes more fun. It does become the social connection that I think we're all craving right now. And so again, they're through food, right? When you can provide a time and a space where you can gather all these folks, have a really upbeat and fun sort of Sunday school activity, but then gather the young families in a hall after around the comfort of food. It just seems to, I guess, bring people together more regularly. And so that is really where we're tending now, is that we're starting to appreciate, I think, a little bit more where our young families are today, right? It's different. It's not how we used to be. So we need to be innovative. We need to be creative, and we need to be having those conversations with young families about what is it that's going to work for you? Because we know as a faith community that families, young, old, and otherwise, are craving and needing that faith or spiritual piece of their life, right? Yeah. So if people are kind of floundering and not sure how to grab that or get that, then we have to be more innovative in how we get it to families, right? So I think providing those spaces and times where we can offer just a little piece, right, of that togetherness and community, where they feel safe, they feel loved, and they feel they're in a room with some people that are going through the same things, then again, there's the win again, right? So I really believe we are a faith community here in Lloydminster that is innovative, creative, and really listening to the needs of our younger families and the community. And that will guide our programs, right? So it's really hard for me to say this is our new and up and coming program, because it is responsive to the needs of our families that we're dealing with right now. And it's always changing and always being creative, right? So, but I would say right now that Super Families, or the Super Sundays with our young families, has been through COVID, because we went online with a lot of that kind of stuff too. That I think once we get back attending more regularly, I think that program is really going to burst open and be a space that people will attend for sure. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's incredibly inspiring to be hearing these stories about, meeting your community's needs, being present, being open to hearing what it is people need in order to thrive and be invited into relationship, and seeing how you folks are responding to that.
Well, and we might have to be asking for more granting here right away, but we've also started what we call a hub of healing. And so we've networked with a lot of our service agency groups here in the community. And we started it last May, again, in response to the needs that we were seeing of those that were landing themselves at our doorstep. And so we did a really good push to network the service agencies in our community, because so many service agencies are doing wonderful, great things, but there's often some duplication of services, or there's a non-educational piece where we really don't know what that service agency is providing in our community. And when we land in the crisis piece of time, when we've got somebody at our door where we now need to access a service agency, something that we don't provide, where do I go? What do I do? And who's doing this, right? So we decided to network, and we call a meeting now every month, and we've invited service agencies groups to our table. And we identified as a group the needs in our community, number one being mental health, housing, transportation, the community connectedness of all the service agency groups, and then the personal health care needs of the clients we serve. Those were the 5 needs that really stood out to all of these service agency groups. And that was a survey that was done before we even started meeting. And then once we met, we knew that we had identified mental health as number one. So that was something that all service agency groups were identifying as a challenge in our community. So now every monthly meeting when we gather, there is a mental health strategy shared. So we have somebody from Alberta Health Services that actually walks us through a mental health strategy that is expected for us to go through, take home with our families, but also provide that learning to those that we work with in our workspace. And so every month we do a mental health strategy. But then the beauty of the meeting after that is when we divide off into our focus groups. So if you're a service agency that is really focused on housing, then you sit at that housing table. If transportation is your issue, then you sit at the transportation issue. If connecting that community agency group is more of what you want to be doing, then you sit there. And then the personal health care needs of the clients we serve is another focus area. And this became a group now that isn't just another meeting for the sake of meeting, but it's action. So there's actual goals now that are happening. And I guess one celebration for us just recently is the housing group sat around, and they've been meeting now for almost a year because it was last May we started. But we're now to the point that we've identified that we need somebody that can help with ID. So ID clinic, like actually perform an ID clinic, because a lot of the folks that we're dealing with do not have ID. They don't have the ID that's required now to get them their tax papers done. They need their birth certificates, they need all the stuff, but they need ID for that. So what's been identified now is we need a person, like an actual person that's going to sit there and walk people through the paper shuffle of how to do this. And so now it's lobbying, and now it's the advocacy for that position. But because we've networked with all of these service agency groups in our community, we know that we can get the funds from a lot of these different groups, right? And because it's benefiting us all. And so there again, I think is some of the innovation and just the excitement around listening to the needs of those that you're serving in your community and banding together with those that are providing those services in your community. And Grace United Church has become the hub of that. So that's the hub of healing. So once a month meeting here, and now we're gathering all these service agency groups. And that's another feel-good story, I think, for the innovation and the creative juices that are flowing here. But and I think in the downturn of COVID and all the yucky that came with that, it was an opportunity for us to just sit and reflect about our core values and what it is that Grace was to offer our community. And these are the wonderful programs that have come from that time, right? So
yeah, and I think what's so important that you're saying, and sometimes folks, they have this question of like, what is innovation, or how do we do innovation? And there's a sense of needing to have the answer or having a really great idea. But I think what you and the folks at Grace United are showing is that sometimes being innovative is just listening, is listening and being responsive.
Yeah, well, and you know what? Don't kid yourself. I go into these meetings because I facilitate them all. And sometimes I have no idea where the meeting's going to go. But you listen to what's happening, and you also watch to see who's not around the table that should be there. And then there's my job after that, right? I see where the discussion went. I see where the concern is. I see where the need is, or even the struggle, because I want those people back around the table. We know that you are a valued person around this table and you need to be here. So I don't want to lose them. So then I really watch and listen, and then there's phones going after, and it's making connections of you need to be here because this was the need that was addressed or this was discussed. And we know that you have value and contribution around this table. You need to be here. So, we've had that 30 kind of people that started sitting around the table, and you always lose some because, they wonder where it's going. And it's evolved now to a consistent 15 to 18 people that are around the table all the time. And it's nice because it's almost floating, like there's new people coming in all the time. So it's transitional, it's change, it's always kind of, different. But I think people again land themselves around that meeting table when they're called to be there. And so it's beautiful to me because it's everybody, but it's everybody when the time works for that everybody, right? Yeah. So there again, I think is the innovation and the creativity, not getting frustrated, not, wondering, but it's diving in, taking a chance, having faith that where we're headed is it's a good place, right?
Yeah. Wow. Incredible, Lana. I'm just like, Lloydminster is so lucky to have you and to have Grace United as a fixture in the community. You folks are doing some really incredible work.
Yeah, there's great work. I feel good about it for sure.
As you should, my goodness, like really well done. I'm so inspired.
Yeah.
If folks want to find out more information about you or the work that Grace United is doing, how can they find you? How can they be in contact?
Yeah, so I mean, for sure, Grace United Church in Lloydminster. So we have somebody that sits in the office regularly throughout the day. So just contacting the church office is for sure a way to reach. I do have a Grace United Church email. So it's Lana Lane, Grace U. So that's GRACEU @gmail.com. So for sure, reaching me through email is a great space. We do have a Facebook page. We do have a website. So again, those are avenues that people can reach out to us if they would like to do that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Lana. I'm excited to follow along and see where all things go. I hope all the innovation continues. I'm like, if that means more grant applications, send them in.
It probably would be.
I'm like, it's so great. And I feel so like renewed thinking about innovation and the way that you folks are approaching it at Grace United. So thank you for sharing that with us today. I think that's so important and so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much, folks. Thank you for joining us for another EDGEy conversation, and we'll see you the following Monday.